Dear students, today we are going to take paper fifth, and this is block number 1. This block number 1 is have got two books in which literature for human values, and one book is of Acharya Mahapragya. So in this, actually the first book is of Acharya Tulsi on contemporary problems. First, before we proceed in the book, we would like to take a small introduction of Acharya Shri Tulsi. He was a prominent Jain Acharya and was the founder of Anugrat movement and the Jain Vishwa Bharati Institute, and the author of over 100 books on various subjects. He was born in 1904 in Darnoon, in present Nagaur district of Rajasthan, to Badna and Jhumramal Khated. Acharya Kalugani, then the leader of the Terapanth Sangh, greatly influenced Tulsi. Tulsi took his monk's vows at age 11. In 1936, Kalugani nominated Tulsi to be his successor, making him head of Terapanth group. During his leadership of Sangh, he initiated more than 776 monks and nuns. He was a very great scholar, and in the 1970s, Tulsi began researching, compiling translations and commentaries on the Jain Agamas. Tulsi, along with Yuvacharya Mahapragya, sought to rediscover Jain meditation and termed it Preksha Dhyan. He was one of the most prominent thinkers of contemporary India, and he launched Anubrat movement in 1949, which means Anu means small, Brat means vows. Anubratas are the limited versions of Mahabharatas for the monks, based on the 5 Jain principles: truth, non-violence, non-possession, non-stealing, and celibacy, as applied in their limited version for the lay people. The movement encouraged people to apply the Anubratas in their personal lives, even when dealing with non-religious aspects of the society. The movement also held that dharma is not for ensuring happiness in the future lives, but also for achieving happiness in the present life. The movement has continued under the leadership of Acharya Mahapragya and Mahashramanji. So, as we can see in the slide, that Anubrat movement was launched by Tulsi and was made popularized. The book particularly, that is in our syllabus, Acharya Tulsi on contemporary problems, is virtually a kind of questionnaire where so many questions were asked, and then Acharya Tulsi tried to answer them. And those answers are compiled in a book form, and those answers are really very innovative ideas of Acharya Tulsi on the current problems of India. This is to say, he was an embodiment of fearlessness. He had recommended his solutions objectively and as a spiritual doctor, and he has, through these answers, given us a unique therapy which can be called therapy of the soul. Dear students, the book inculcates us, sublimates us, and makes us better human beings. As such, it embodies the very spirit of Sahitya, which aims at the welfare of society. I'm sure while reading the book you will appreciate these points. Now, we will actually, as we have discussed, there are so many aspects, and those aspects were asked in questionnaire form. Then Acharya Tulsi tried to answer them. So I have selected some important questions that can be of use for you people, and I have selected some material, some important material on that particular topic. For example, here we go: the shape of a society without exploitation. The shape of a society without exploitation is the first article in the book. The prime objective of all saints, philosophers, and leaders is to establish an exploitation-free society. Acharya Tulsi was a versatile genius. He combined so many qualities that it is difficult to determine whether he was a greater reformer or a greater writer. To me, he seems to be a great reformer first. The greatest problem of today is that we are self-centered. We believe in pomp and show, glitter and etiquette, and as a result, we completely ignorant the qualities of heart. We want to amass money by hook or crook. The result is a blind mad race. Everybody is running after money. It seems as if our principles, all our faith has disappeared, and the taka dharma has overwhelmed us. The result is that the rich exploit the poor, the rich have become richer and the poor poorer. Everybody in his capacity is busy in exploiting others, be he a rickshaw puller or an industrialist. The overall effect of this tendency is a feeling of despondency and pessimism. Now, how to come out of these morass? The answer to this question is given by Acharya Tulsi. Let us see the solutions. The shape of a society without exploitation. Now, here is the summary. The importance of politics and economics towards the formation of society cannot be questioned. They play a major role but are not the most important. No doubt, the political system gives us stability. Stability is important for having proper law and order. And without law and order, we cannot have a harmonious effect and culture. If we don't have a good economic system, then there will be no prosperity. As a result, poverty will envelop our society. Poverty brings about violence, restlessness, and crimes. Poverty is an outcome of exploitation of the weak by the strong and powerful. They may be powerful either economically or politically, but one thing is certain, they are resourceful. All political ideologies, Marxism, Gandhism, etc., want to put an end to exploitation. Building a society free from exploitation, this was the desire of Acharya Shri Tulsi. He was well read in politics and economics as well. A dynamic thinker, he designed the Anuvrat movement so as to make it all pervasive and extremely useful for all. The rich and the poor, the high and the low, he introduced spirituality to the common people. Before him, spiritualism remained a forte of a selected few. He brought it out to everyone. He presented the spiritualism in front of everybody. And now we can see in summary that initially Anuvrat aimed at reforming the present society by waging a non-violent war against the evils that have enveloped it, such as corrupt practices, superstitions, and senseless rigid traditions, for making the movement a grand success. Its scope was widened. Acharya Tulsi realized that so long as differences based upon caste, creed, language, color, etc. continued, the real progress could not be achieved, and the greatest task of making this world a beautiful place to live in can never be accomplished. So the great seer envisaged a society free from the, different kind of malices and problems. Then he talks about social structure and non-violence. In the third chapter, he says how a society can be free from violence. What are the factors responsible for its creation? How can an exploitation-free society can be established? Acharya Tulsi maintains that acquisition and violence play a major role in structuring a society. In the very act of accepting to be a part of a whole, man builds a relationship of personal attachment, the sense of belonging to a group, the feeling of my family, my caste, my community, my nation, separates him from others. When one belongs to a particular class, country, etc., there is a special feeling. If that feeling, sentiment is hurt, he becomes violent. Complete non-violence is not possible if one is attached to anything, whether it is in person or in kind. So detachment, according to Acharya Tulsi, was the first principle in order to make the society violence-free. And then he actually talks about non-violence and bravery. A charge has often been labeled against the practitioners of non-violence that they lack courage and bravery, and that India remained a slave for over 700 years only because she believed in non-violence. You may be surprised to note that Narmad, a great Gujarati poet, also propagated this idea. Mahatma Gandhi didn't approve of his views. Acharya Tulsi too dismisses this theory of outright, citing so many reasons which are logical and convincing. He says he was very much clear and distinct what non-violence is, what bravery is, what cowardice is, what non-violence is. There is a distinct difference. Acharya Tulsi at the outset rejects the view that India remained a slave for such a long period because Indians were non-violent. Even today, the people of India are non-violent. They are not aggressive. He admits the fact that non-violence rears a feeling of pity and compassion for others. At the same time, the use of violence cannot be ruled out completely as long as there is disparity and discrimination in our society. So he says actually that, that the violence cannot be ruled out. It cannot be thrown away from our society as long as the discrimination, disparity is there in the society. And then further he discusses about non-violence, that non-violence is the solution to war. Generally we feel non-violent resistance is legitimate as it doesn't allow any room for violence. And that the movements launched by Mahatma Gandhi, such as the civil disobedience movement, satyagraha, sit-ins, strikes, gheravs, are relevant as they bring change. Acharya Tulsi was a strict disciplinarian. He was straightforward in his views. So while commenting on the Gandhian movements, he categorically mentions that they have lost the effectiveness they had in Gandhiji's time because they have lost their purity. Those who employ these methods even today swear by the name of Gandhi, but the common man doubts their integrity. As a matter of fact, non-violent resistance can yield results only when the ground realities are taken into account and the leaders of the movement are willing to sacrifice themselves. So, as a matter of fact, he tried to give solution to bars, solution to problems by non-violent ways, challenges to non-violence. In this particular chapter, he says, the world we live in is full of happiness and sadness. If we think the source of these two conflicting emotions, we find that it is ultimately the man and women who pleasures and pain. Pleasure is man-made, pain is man-made. Similarly, violence is also caused by us. No doubt, man cherishes peace, but it is disturbed by him, and gradually it is disturbed to the extent that it becomes uncontrollable. The greatest challenge to non-violence comes from the vested interests of selfish people. The murder of Martin Luther King moved Acharya Tulsi. He commented upon the death of King extensively, highlighting the cause of violence and propounding that King's death is not a defeat, but a glorious triumph. He further says, in the same chapter, Acharya Tulsi penetrates deep into the subject and finds out the cause of violence. He admires the progress that modern man has made in all the fields, physical, emotional, economical, and intellectual. Yet this progress, through miraculous, is lopsided. It is flawed. It tends to ignore the emotional side and the sentimental aspects of society. The result is competitiveness, a mad race for outdoing the other. Come what may, I am to win at any cost, seems to be the slogan of the so-called modern man. Acharya Tulsi points out that lack of cordiality, arrogance of the high towards the low, hatred and terror act as the seeds of violence. They will continue to grow and flourish, spreading poison in the minds of the people, so long as the values of unity, equality, and liberty don't get established. So he also knew those factors that are creating challenge to the non-violent society, particularly in India. Socialism and non-violence. The ultimate objective of any political system is to create a society based on the noble principles of life. The noble principles of life, such as love, compassion, non-violence, and truth, cannot be realized without good governments. Every society requires a system to govern it. A country with a good political ideology can usher in an era of peace and prosperity. Acharya Tulsi was a dynamic thinker, a progressive pontiff, and a unique seer far ahead of his times. He was a spiritualist, but a spiritualist with a difference, an ascetic who always felt the pulse of society. He never believed in the only system. He followed the principle of this too. So he was very much concentrated for the development of society, for the development of socialism in the society. He was in the favor that unless we develop socialism, non-violence can't be thrown away. Acharya Tulsi doesn't hide his feeling while talking about socialism. He regards socialism as a slogan very often referred to by its fashionable votaries, especially at the time of crisis. Otherwise, it remains just a fad to talk about. Socialism as a political thought stands for equality, freedom, and justice. It ensures an exploitation-free society In fact, most of our problems are an outcome of economic exploitation. Socialism aims to stop it. Then he talks about prohibition, revenue, and morality. It has been said by liquor lobby that the states of the union will face a revenue crisis if there is prohibition of liquor, etc. These propagators of buying forget the basic truth of life. Life is not for a momentary thrill. It is much more than that. Superficially, the government does not get revenue, but the money it saves from banning the sale of liquor is too much. If a survey is conducted, it will be found that the main cause of road accidents is liquor. Drivers drive their vehicles in a drunken state, so many persons die, so many are left handicapped and permanently wounded. This apart, every year we see hook tragedies. Personally, I have seen people going blind because of too much consumption of liquor. Innumerable diseases occur due to hook. How much money the government spends on the treatment of such patients. And then he says about the film industry. The film industry exercises a tremendous effect on the impressionable minds. This is to say that the children, young boys and girls are highly impressed by the activities of the sign artists, the heroes, heroines, villains and vampires, even their trivial activities, their different styles, their way of talking, speaking and behaving everywhere. The impact of film industry has been unwholesome. To say the least, for our films, especially the Bollywood films, are a curious blend of crime and sex. Acharya Tulsi was a great social scientist. He was a great social doctor, great social reformer. He couldn't ignore the significance of the film industry. It reaches everywhere and the scope of its reach is going on increasing day by day. Thanks to the ever-increasing, tantalizing television, Acharya Tulsi was upset to see that the ideals of our young boys and girls had changed so fast. There was a time when the children derived inspiration from Ram, Krishna, Mahavir, Buddha, Vivekananda, Dayanand, Gandhi, etc. But now, thereafter, the star's lifestyle, all new fashions emanate from them. Even educated young men and women are out to ape these actors and actresses. Acharya Tulsi regards the film industry as the main cause of the decline in national character. So, he very clearly said that earlier the role models were different of our Indian youths. Now, the role models are different. He further talks about communism and spirituality. And he says, it is a great testimony to a saint who has seen beyond the religious books. All knowledge seems to be his province, and to me he appears to be a spiritual beacon. Acharya Tulsi had fully grasped the kernel of communism, which aims at the welfare of the deprived, placing the tools of development in the hands of the poor and setting up their own administration. But he disowns the cult of violence that communism lovingly and religiously follows even now, when it is more or less a spent force. So he used to think that communism is a not good thing in order to develop for spirituality. Science is the study and knowledge of the structure and behavior of natural things in an organized way. Spirituality is the study of the inner self. Both are based on experiments. The young enthusiasts of science blissfully forget the underlying relationship these two have. They out of sheer fashion undermine spirituality, dismissing it as a waste of time. Acharya Tulsi is a synthesist. It deliciously depicts the significance of both, bringing out their objective, which remains the same: welfare of society. Acharya Tulsi lauds the contribution of science emphatically. It is true that man has made immense gains through scientific progress. Science has brought within man's reach things that would have otherwise taken a long time of strenuous efforts to achieve. Finance yields benefits only to him who does it. The fruits of science are available to one and all. So actually, Acharya Tulsi used to think that science and spirituality are together and they have got a very great relation. And if science does not support spirituality, it is blind. And if spirituality does not support science, then science is lame. So that was his understanding, that he wanted to combine both of them. Now what he says about modern problems and Gandhian philosophy. Mahatma Gandhi, as we know, was the important figure of 20th century, and he was there in order to make India free, and he is called the father of nation. he is also called as the Rashtrapita, Mahatma and all. His magic dominated our country for many decades. Well, commenting on the effectiveness of Gandhian philosophy, Acharya Tulsi insists on its usefulness, but at the same time pines over the loss of true Gandhians. He is sad that every party including Congress, encashes the name of Gandhi while throwing away all his ideals to the winds. Acharya Tulsi admits that the ideals of Gandhiji will continue to lead the society, for these are universal values, the values of love, non-violence, truth, self-abstinence, welfare of all, etc. And much before Gandhi, Lord Mahavira had propounded these values through his sermons. Now he said something about spirituality, a tourist attraction. Acharya Tulsi is perhaps the only spiritual guru who has underscored the significance of spirituality from a different point of view. He is a propagator of spiritual tourism. It is a fact that our government spends millions of rupees to attract foreign tourists, but it does pretty little to popularize the spiritual centers. In fact, the foreign tourists do not know much about our spiritual centers, such as Aurobindo Ashram, Yoga Ashram, Munger, Bihar, Swami Shivananda Ashram, Haridwar, and etc. Then Acharya Tulsi spoke about Jain philosophy and casteism also. What he says, please see, India is an ancient country with a known history of over 5,000 years. It has a great past, a decent present, and hopefully a bright future. Yet it cannot be denied that she has so many problems to solve. The problems of communalism, casteism, regionalism, corruption, nepotism, and so many. Had we not faced these problems or had we overcome them, we would have become a developed country in the line of the United States of America, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. Unfortunately, we are still grappling with these curses. But every Indian is an optimist at heart. One day we will defeat these scars and get the place we really and richly deserve. Acharya Tulsi has deeply thought upon, so many other problems. So he says that Jain philosophy has got a solution to all those problems actually. And according to Jain philosophy, there should not be a particularly discrimination that is based on caste and creed and other things. Acharya Tulsi says how we can use summer holidays also in the best possible way. A general complaint about our present education system is that our schools and colleges observe so many holidays. If the entire vacation period, like summer vacation, etc., all the Sundays and other holidays, election, cultural festivals, and other things are added up, the total swells to nearly 6 months. Even on working days, the actual working hours may not exceed 4 hours a day. So real teaching is far less. Our students have a lot of time. They roam about. The result is that they are increasingly becoming unruly and often indulge in destructive activities. Acharya Tulsi pondered over this problem also, and then he suggested that the students should be made more socialized, and they should be oriented to the problems of our society. Only then they can think over problems and they can be more productive, etc. Self-restraint, a healthy basis of family planning. Acharya Tulsi suggested that we have so many problems in our country. In order to make a healthy society, we have to change ourselves. Individual transformation is first of all needed. It is the crux of his idea, and that is what he said, that self-restraint is very much needed in order to make a society, good society and sustainable society. Human unity, its process and future direction. So Acharya Tulsi was in favor of human unity also. He suggested that without the human unity, our civilization cannot go for a long time. Whether they are rich or poor, whether they are the downtrodden and the most developed people, people must come together and they must believe for the human unity. Acharya Tulsi, when was asked the question about the gap between the north and the south, then Acharya Tulsi said that this is more political and less individual actually. He very clearly said that there is a liking in the people of north and the south, but because of the politics, because of the other things actually, these things are not materialized. There is not much get together between the people of North and South. If it happens actually, definitely there will be a kind of communication, regular communication between these people, and then we will be seeing a good and developed country. Then there was a question about the national language, because the southern people never liked the concept of Hindi language. Acharya Tulsi very clearly said that it is not so. He was very clear and firm in his opinion. He said that I have seen a kind of fascination for English in North rather than in South. So actually, the topic has to be oriented in a proper way. And once again, he once again said that it is more political and less individual. So, as a matter of fact, this book, particularly Acharya Tulsi on contemporary problems, provides a kind of a comprehensive picture on the contemporary problems in the words of Acharya Tulsi. We will see the summary. Though to me the book appears to be a questionnaire, it may also be considered as a collection of interviews. For it seems that these are the questions raised by the interviewers from time to time. Whatever one may call them, questionnaire, interviews, casteism, etc., the book is interesting, stimulating and inculcating. So as we were talking actually, in fact, we talked in the beginning also, that the book particularly is in the questionnaire form. Many questions were asked, and then Acharya Tulsi tried to answer them later on. And these questions actually have been formed in the book form. I would also like to mention the urgency of reading the book Acharya Tulsi on Contemporary Problems in its original text. There is no shortcut to success. Here are some tips. Useful tips, one may say, but so long as you don't read the book as a whole, you cannot assimilate the subject, which is so useful, not only from your examination point of view, but also from your all-round development. So actually this book has got a solution to different kind of problems. And as I have narrated in the last stanza, in the last paragraph of the summary, that in order to have the bright look, to have the complete look, in order to have a complete understanding of the ideas mentioned and expressed by Acharya Tulsi, you have to go through the book. Once you go through the book, you will come to know about his all comprehensive ideas and the picture of society which he wanted to create among the people. One particular fact that he stressed upon, that individual translation, individual transformation was the crux that was much needed thing for him. So he has stressed that particular thing everywhere in the book. I think you must have enjoyed, you must have, found the whole presentation in a very good way, and you will read the book. If you read the book, you will get the clear picture, the more comprehensive picture about the book, and that will help you. Thank you very much.